I wanted to chat about which person is to blame. And this is just something that I've been noticing we've recently, my wife and I have moved to a different county. And as new residents of that county political government jurisdiction, we've done things like registering vehicles and getting the property tax thing. And I got a jury summons the other day. And something I'm noticing from this county is almost everything is prefaced with, every letter is, we are required state statute to ensure that you blah, blah, blah. You know, that your kids go to school between ages 7 and 16, that you pay this amount of taxes based on this, that you do this, that you do that. But they're kind of making this excuse of, hey, it ain't me, man. I'm your neighbor that you see at the grocery store because we're a tiny little rural ranching community. It ain't me, man. The state is telling me I have to, and I'm just doing my job. And so I've thought about over the years how smart they have been to not have anybody that can really be blamed for something. And I just thought of the example of somebody who is some radical extremist. And I'm trying to think of a popular name that would George Washington, Patrick Henry, somebody like that, who just really believes strongly in anti-government stuff. Or they thought they were being oppressed by someone and they decided they wanted to get upset about something. So let's just take somebody who had that kind of mean insurrectionist type attitude. And let's say it was a mother who hadn't been persuaded that it was a good idea for her child to be vaccinated. And then she wants her child to go get a surgery that is actually important. And the doctor's office says, no, we're not going to do the surgery on someone who's not vaccinated. And the mother gets really, really angry. And she says, I want someone to blame. They, whoever they are, have done a very good job at hiding. Because you can't blame the doctor, because the doctor is bound by the state board and by the hospital for whom she works. So you can't blame the doctor, not the doctor's fault. Doctor's just doing their job. You can't blame the medical licensing board. They're just following the national licensing board and what their recommendations are based on the World Health Organization and other blah, blah, blahs. You can't blame the national board because they're just making recommendations that will help keep their members from losing when there's litigation. They're just trying to, protect themselves and their members. Well, you can't really blame the attorneys. They don't make the laws. We can't blame the lawmakers because they don't make the laws, or they make the laws, but they don't enforce the laws. So you can't blame them. We can't blame the cops because they don't make the laws. And they've done such a good job of hiding so that there is no human being who you can walk up to and you can say, this huge evil cog with 38 spokes, or not spokes, cogs. I'm going to go to that cog and I'm going to say, you're a bad cog. And that cog is going to say, no. My job's just hooking up the gas line. And you go to another cog and say, you're a bad cog. And he says, no. I just throw people of a certain type into the oven. And then you go to the next one and you say, you're a bad cog. No. I just flipped the switch. And so those three people each played an important part in a horrible Holocaust. And yet each of them can say, nope, just doing my job. Hey, I know Nuremberg trials, but there's remains this brilliant system of delegating blame to other people. And I was part of that system. And it's an interesting thing. Who do you blame? Well, I'm mad as hell. I'm going to go do something about it. Okay, where are you going? You're getting in your car right now. Got it. You're going to turn the ignition on. You're going to turn your headlights on. Now, where are you driving? Who are you going to go and chew out?
Lysander Spooner, this was a big part of what Spooner was talking about when he was saying that the Constitution is of no authority. It's not a true contract because it is party to no one. Like, you are expected to be bound by this contract, of which the other party in the contract with you is unknowable. It's nobody. You can't find this person that you're signing this social or actual Constitution contract with. to hold them accountable for the things that they do to you. That's one of the many reasons why it's not valid, because there isn't a knowable person. Like if it's the politicians, you could say, well, it's the people that voted for the politicians. But those people are unknowable. You can't go look up a list of people that gave a guy the power to tyrannize you and hold those people accountable. If my neighbor voted for one of them, then he is culpable, at least in part, for the tyranny that his politician that won exacts upon me. And I can't go over and knock on his door and say, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Look, it says right here, you voted for this. You brought this to my door. This asshole is controlling me because you asked him to. You owe me restitution for your crimes against me, neighbor. You can't do that because they keep it anonymous on purpose, because the buck has to stop nowhere. Otherwise, I don't know, people will notice what's going on. That was one of Spooner's most awesome points in the book that I don't hear many people talk about, but that's one of the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
A lot of the things you said, though, go ahead.
No.
Well, a lot.
I have trouble blaming a specific. I'm going.
Go.
I have trouble blaming a specific person because I start to, and then I realize, okay, maybe this person is wrong thinking or different thinking than me. But at heart, when they got up this morning, they went out doing the best they can to do a good thing. And this actually came to mind about a month ago. I was driving along at night and I came upon a pickup truck with a trailer behind it. And the guy had spun out on ice and the trailer had rammed into the snowbank. And there were hundreds of 5-gallon buckets of cleaning solution that were littered all over the place. So I pull over to help him, load him back up, get him unstuck, whatever I can do to help. And I'm there helping him, and we're both kind of talking about, holy cow, let's get this done before the highway patrol comes along, because they're probably going to have all kinds of laws that it wasn't strapped on properly, you didn't get enough sleep, and blah, blah, blah. Let's get all this done. Another Good Samaritan stopped by and was helping. And we're all kind of agreeing, okay, you're not going to say how long you've been driving today, that you came all the way from a city a long way away, and we're just going to keep that hush hush. And we're, all these strangers are coming up with this line to protect the poor guy. And here shows up the highway patrolman, and he sets out some flares and starts lifting up 5-gallon buckets and moving them. And I looked at him, I said, back when I was a cop, I would have said that I needed to watch out for everybody's safety. I wouldn't have actually helped lift stuff. He said, no, man, let's get this done. If we don't hurry up and get it done, there's going to be a crash and I'm going to have to write a report. So let's get it done. And it's like, wow, that dude an hour ago probably victimized someone who did something that people in suits didn't like driving over the speed limit or something like that. But at that moment, that dude was being a real cool, he was a third Good Samaritan. He was the only one getting paid, but he was just being a cool country dude getting stuff done. And so when I decide to blame somebody and get mad as hell and go drive and choose somebody out, well, I don't really want to go to his house, especially in this kind of circumstance where it was his choice. It wasn't a thought out thing, like having school resource officers. It's a propaganda method to get children to love the government. But this was just kind of a spontaneous dude doing the right thing. And so I see those examples every now and then, and I think, gosh, who do I hate?
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff in your example, I don't think is actually something that people would be actually culpable for in like a criminal or legal or otherwise manner, right? Like if I convinced my neighbor that he shouldn't, and he was a dentist, my neighbor's a dentist, and I convinced him that he should never do tooth extractions on days where it rains, let's just say, right? And, let's say that you went to him trying to get a tooth extraction and he turned down your business because he was convinced of what I taught him, that he shouldn't do that stuff when it rains or when Mercury's in retrograde or whatever the, cockamamie garbage, whatever that people believe, right? There's no victim in that interaction. Like if the doctor is convinced of nonsense and he disassociates or refuses to associate with you based on his false beliefs or just beliefs, it doesn't matter what his beliefs are. He has the right to not associate with you for whatever reason he wants. And so just because he's not associating with you, you're not a victim. And I think that erases a lot of the links in your example that you gave. Like, if a doctor is convinced of COVID and the need for you to be vaccinated before he does a procedure on you, and he disassociates from you or refuses to associate with you by selling his services to you, you're not a victim. That's just him exerting control over his property and his body and who he associates with, and you don't have a right to his services. That's the only point I wanted to make in your example, is that a lot of especially lately with this COVID stuff, a lot of people have been misassociating or misunderstanding what it means to be a victim. You don't, if a grocery store doesn't allow you on their property without a mask and a vaccine passport, you're not a victim. That's their property and it's their store, and you don't have a right to go in there. Are they dumb? Yeah. Are they, people that I would disassociate from loudly and make sure everybody knew that the store was doing that stuff? Absolutely. But you're not a victim. You don't have a right to the services of everyone around you if you disagree, even if society at large is under a mass delusion, as we're seeing right now to a certain degree, right? Like, if everybody believes you shouldn't provide services on rainy days, then you're just surrounded by a lot of idiots. You're not a victim. You don't have you can't enslave them just because you think their beliefs are false, even if they are false. Yeah, that was the point I wanted to make. As unpopular as that point has been, because that point's been very unpopular on Twitter lately.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.